Hi, Angelique Clemens. I am the host of the Can I Borrow Your Skin podcast, and we are in May. And so we are talking about several topics around sex that aren't necessarily discussed a lot. And I think that it is important to talk about them. One of the biggest topics, I think, for me that gets overlooked so much is the way a person has sex changes over the years. I don't know anybody on their first experience being a freaking rock star coming out of the gate. If you were, please tell me about it. I need to hear this story. Like, I know there's a bunch of random weird porn and like scripted series that say you can be a rock star out the gate. I don't believe it. I just don't. I don't know anyone that has. And honestly, even if you were, the more you learn about yourself over the years, what you like, what you dislike in bed, and just otherwise in your sex life, how you are mentally and physically, it changes the way that you get down. And you are doing yourself a disservice if you're not allowing how you mature physically and mentally impact your sex life. Sex is so mental in and of itself. And so as you are maturing mentally, then your sex is probably going to change as well. You need to learn your body. Like, if you're not learning your body, you're not learning the things that you like, the things that you enjoy, the things that you might be curious about, you're punishing yourself. Point blank, period. Like, you need to know your body or you're missing out on possibly some great sex. And I know that I'm going to talk about this in depth in September, I believe, but self exploration is probably one of the best things that you can do for yourself. And that's not just physically, it's like mentally. Like, I am a big fan of not only exploring your body, but also what do you like mentally? What are some things you want to try? And sometimes there may be things you've never even heard about. Like, get outside of your PG-13 vanilla mindset. Like, read erotica. And it doesn't have, there's so many different forms of erotica. Everyone thinks erotica is one thing. It's not. It's everything from a vampire to, they have Little House on the Prairie erotica. They have stuff with robots. You name it, there's probably something out there. Like, you could scroll on Facebook and you find like this werewolf and the scent. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Not my bag, but people like it. I watch porn. There's so many different kinds of porn. And actually I suck at finding porn. This is my confession for the day. I suck at finding porn. But I have friends that are great at it. And they will say, hey, Angelique, here's a link. Go scroll through this. I think you might find something hilarious. And I'm a porn critic. They are absolutely correct on that. I spend more time looking at porn and being like, why is that camera angle like that? And laughing at something someone did but didn't mean to do. So I'm the worst person to watch porn with. But, I do advocate for porn. I think people should watch porn. And something that as children, no, I shouldn't say children, as teenagers and young adults, people did a lot of, but as they become adults, they do a lot less of it. But talk about things with your friends. Like the slumber party or the sleepover as like a 17, 18, 19, 20 something year old. You'd get an adult, you get your glass of wine, you'd sit on couches and in beanbag chairs. Yes, I am from the beanbag chair era. And you would sit and talk about, what you read, what you saw, potentially what you did, and y'all sit around and talk about it. I mean, at this big age I have, it would be in like a group text between all my friends or whatever. But those are ways to get ideas of what might be interesting to try, because I've never heard of someone trying everything and seeing everything and doing everything. And so as you learn, and you're going to continually learn about yourself, and your body's going to continually change. Like now being perimenopausal, my body has changed a lot. And so things I used to like, I don't like. Things I didn't like before, I like now. Things I didn't know existed, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because you're constantly changing. And as you're constantly changing, you should be constantly exploring. And this is where, arrogance to me is just always a negative thing. However, being arrogant here, thinking you've tried everything, saying that you've mastered it all is going to be such a huge detriment to you, because if you've seen it all, if you've mastered it all, then you won't try. And trying and experimenting throughout your life with your sex is probably one of the funnest things you'll ever do. And especially if you have an open-minded partner or partners, then you get to try a lot of different things and see a lot of different things and enjoy a lot of different things. And, you can always learn things from other people. If you have a partner that's more exploratory than you, then, maybe they'll say, well, how about this? And even if they say something you have zero interest in, if you shut it down in a negative way, they will never bring anything up to you again. So maybe don't be a negative Nelly and say, that doesn't sound like something I would like. What else are you thinking? And if it's something you've never thought of, you don't think you would like it, say, I don't think I would like that, but maybe let's try this variation of it, or maybe let's try that. There are so many things that can lead to you being stuck in a rut and missing out and never experimenting, never trying, never being open-minded, thinking you know it all, not discussing things with your friends. I am not a fan of doing gossip talk where you sit around and be like, yeah, I just catch Becky, Susie, and Jimmy. But, actually it's talking about different activities or different ideas, like who you're sleeping with should be between you and the person you're sleeping with and your doctor. Unless something comes out of the trips to your doctor, then you have to talk to everyone else you're sleeping with, but you don't have to tell them who it is. Either way, I think that, exploration is a positive thing, and it should be lifelong learning. And lifelong learning in all aspects are a good thing, but especially when it comes to you, your body, and your sex life. And the more you experiment, and there's different kinds of orgasms. Like, that's why they have different kinds of, toys to explore with. They have different frequencies, different. Talking too much about that part, but there's different kinds of toys, and they all do different little things, and they do different things because there's different orgasms. There's actually a really good podcaster on Pantheon, I believe it's called, and his page is free, and he talks about the anatomy, both the male anatomy and the female anatomy, different ways to stimulate all the different parts of the anatomy. And then there's actually names to some of the orgasms. And so he talks about the different orgasm names and the different body parts that can give more than one kind of orgasm. And it is such a good way to explore and look. And if you're always doing the same thing, you're always going after the same kind of orgasm, it can get boring. And that's another reason why you should explore and do different things. Yes, orgasms are great, but yes, orgasms can become boring as well. So don't get stuck in a rut with a mundane sex life because you are unwilling to explore and unwilling to try new things. I can't remember the therapist's name, but back in my childhood, there used to be a sex therapist who used to be on television late at night. I want to say Channel 20. Thank you. Talk Sex with Sue. And love my engineer. He's full of great information because I don't remember her name. Yes, Talk Sex with Sue. And the reason why that show was so very popular is because she gave people ideas and ways to spark up their sex life. And she did talk about different kinds of orgasms as well. And so it just shows you that this is commonplace. There's nothing wrong with learning, and there's still sex therapists out there. They're just not as well known. And most people think that a sex therapist's whole job is to work with you if you have like some sort of sexual dysfunction. That's one part of their job. Another part of their job is to help couples get out of ruts. And and a lot of people have a misconception. No, a sex therapist generally is not going to jump in bed with you and your partner and start positioning and telling you how to do things. So that's your job. They will tell you, hey, why don't you look at this? Or why don't you try that? Or, give you different ideas of things you may or may not want to try, but they're not going to jump in the sack with you. So take this May to start looking at your life, looking at your love life, looking at your sex life, and saying to yourself, self, can I make this a little better? What's some cool things I haven't tried, and what would I be interested in? And, I know we talked about fetishes in February. You don't necessarily have to go the fetish route. There's little things that are very common that people try when they're trying to spice things up, and make sure it's consensual and start with yourself. That's my biggest advice. And then put down your favorite Talk Sex with Sue moment. Even if you've never seen the show, talk about well, if I was going to explore, I might look at this. And I think there's ways to be anonymous on these things. So try it. But, like, subscribe, save, comment, follow. Yay. Thank you. Bye.